What day is it? What
The
are we doing?
19th. Today's the 19th, February 19th.
February is gone. There's
It
nothing left of
is.
February. I don't know what happened. I don't know where the time goes. We're still in a festival of winter here.
Hopefully, by the time this airs, I will have the keys to the house.
How many down trees have you checked? You've not been out of the house.
No, I haven't been out of the house because it's still covered in ice, but hopefully none.
They haven't
What
had
if
the
you
heart to
drive up?
call you, but there's a tree in your living room now.
Yeah. What if you drive up and
roof.
there's just a giant hole in the roof?
I hope that we would see that on the final walkthrough, but who can say?
I don't know. They
have
might
to
do
push it
something with
back.
mirrors and hide it from you.
They might have to push it back because we're supposed to close on the 18th and do final walkthrough and everything. But I mean, if we're snowed in again, I don't know if that'll happen. I guess I don't know.
And today's episode of the news is brought to you by Linode. Thanks, Linode. So there's a coupon below. You can get $100 off a new Linode subscription. They've got tutorials and guides and setup stuff. They host your server and your website, and your shared objects and all this other kind of stuff. So if you're a web developer or looking to get into web development, or you're looking for a career change where you're going to be able to work from home, you want to get into sysadmin or DevOps or anything like that, Linode's great to practice on. They're great to run in production. They cost less than Amazon and better service, in my opinion. We've used them for years. We use them for hosting for a Level 1, like where your Level 1 website and some other stuff, forum. Linode's pretty good stuff. You can get $100 off if you're a new subscriber. You can run through their tutorials, their guide. They're amassing a lot of documentation for open source projects, so you can build some really incredible things with open source and on the Linode platform. So you should definitely check it out. And thanks to Linode for sponsoring this episode.
You know what else we don't know? New math.
What? What's the headline?
Machines are inventing new math we've never seen.
This story is so exciting. They don't mention that this has already happened with physics as well. They've been doing this kind of thing with physics equations for the universe, and the AI is calculating it in a way that's faster and more accurate than the other algorithms. But Boiler Snake knows all about this. Conjectures. So there are conjectures, and there are certain mathematical constants that we arrive at through a lot of computation. Well, this AI has figured out simpler ways to come up with those constants, and we don't know how, but we're figuring that out now because of these discoveries.
The conjecture is the hypothesis. That's what this is coming up with, not the answer.
Yeah. So the conjectures are simpler and require less steps to compute, and we don't know why that is. So there's something to be discovered here in the discovery from the computer. Isn't that exciting? Maybe this is how that guy in the Navy figured out how to bend space-time or whatever with his electromagnetic fields. Feels a little bit like Galaxy Quest, when the aliens are like, well, I don't know, that seems really far-fetched that the humans would build a ship like this. Well, let's just build it for them. It's like that, except the AI or the aliens. I don't know what I'm saying.
Oh, a less exciting AI tool.
New AI tool predicts who's going to die with up to 90% accuracy from the thing that we still can't say. An algorithm estimates the infections that are 3 times higher than reported. Oh, no. The algorithms are taking over. So it's basically able to accurately predict if you're going to die based on your chart and some other information.
I can accurately predict if you're going to die. Yes.
Technically, everyone will eventually. This is kind of scary to think, like, will triage be determined by computer algorithm eventually?
I think the chances of death... Go ahead.
They can figure out if you needed a ventilator versus the next guy. So if you have to assume if everything else was equal and they had one ventilator, yes, this AI would make the decision.
Yeah, it's doing the triage. There's no human element. It's kind of weird.
It is really scary. It is really scary that algorithms make a lot of those decisions. It's also really scary how bad the data is, because like my mom tests positive for hepatitis 3, but she doesn't have hepatitis 3, and I can't tell you how many times where we've gone in for something and they're like, oh, never mind, we don't need it, she's got hepatitis 3, and it's like, oh, Jesus Christ, she doesn't have hepatitis 3. And they're like, what? And then it just turns into this whole thing, and then they have to get the file from somewhere else and figure it out. But when you are one of those weird edge cases, they don't want to treat you.
Yeah.
Are there numerical designations for hepatitis?
Yeah. Or hepatitis C.
Oh, okay. All right.
Third type.
Is there something like if you have some sort of marker in your blood, it'll flag it by accident or something?
Yes. Yeah, it turns out she's a genetic freak. And
You might be too.
Yeah, it's possible. it's possible. But yeah, there's and they're just like, oh no, we got it, blah blah blah. And it's like, you just go home and wait to die. And it's like, no.
Which that's kind of terrifying to think about. If she was actually positive for it, they'd just be like, eh.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened the first time. They were like, well, just go home and wait to die. There's nothing we can do. See ya. And then after she didn't die, they were like, well, maybe we should look into that a little more. Sort of fun. And then she became a study of, she's like patient 3 in some scientific paper somewhere. So that's fun. Anyway, IBM and Palantir forge a partnership in low-code AI data processing space. Palantir needing to process large amounts of data, having a lot of government contracts, siphoning up a lot of data on U.S. citizens, working with IBM. This isn't the first time that IBM has built a computer system for keeping track of data on people.
Anytime there's a Palantir story, it's always kind of like, it's never good news.
But this is basically, so this is kind of like the stones, but they're for people who don't know any magic. You don't have to know magic to use the stone now. And we got this cloud system that does that for you.
And it also can falsely flag you for having hepatitis C or whatever. So, yeah, great job.
You actually didn't need to know magic to use the seeing stones?
You could, oh yeah, that's right, because you could just touch them and you get visions of stuff.
Yeah. Now, if you wanted to turn image to something that you wanted to look at, you had to have a very strong will.
Exactly. If the people who did it and didn't know magic, they had no control over what was going on, right?
It's not magic. It's just like your will to turn it. Like,
Krista, there is magic in those stones. You're not going to tell me otherwise.
There's not magic. It's craft.
You're telling there's no magic in the stone? Come on.
There's not. There's not. They're an object of craft. I think they're made by Feanor.
Is there a fantasy world equivalent of magic smoke? Because I could definitely like see telling an Amish person, it's like, you've let the magic smoke out of the electronics, and they're like, no, what have you done? And it's funny because it's kind of true, but it's also kind of not.
Yeah, like to someone who's maybe just looking at it, it would look like magic, but like there is like a way of working with it.
Okay, we're getting into the Star Trek conversation here. I'm not going to argue that with you as if it's real. It's magic. The whole world is made of magic.
You know who else is working on magic? MIT. They're building a one-stop shop for 3D printing robots. They can fly and 3D print. They can do all kinds of additive manufacturing and print. And they use lasers.
But the cool thing about it is you can like actually prototype it and see it visually before making it, but then it makes every aspect of it, even down to the printed circuit boards.
This kind of
I guess
thing
it doesn't make the batteries.
This kind of thing, a very advanced version of this, is going to be, you know, like reading this story, my imagination went in a whole other direction because, like, we need something like this in everybody's home, or at least in every community center, because it's like, oh, all of a sudden, we all need to wear face masks. We can't mass produce those. But if you had something like this, you could mass produce them. You could just print an appropriate number of face masks that are good enough.
Well, I got some real bad news for you, because the level of control that's going to enter into your 3D printing world after Biden bans guns is really going to upset you. You're not going to like what that looks like.
It also assumes that there's enough raw material to make whatever object you need. And if everyone suddenly had a need for it, that would probably bring up the cost on that item.
I don't know. It depends on what it's made out of, and depends on how easy it is to do stuff, because I mean, it's possible. I don't know. I was thinking about like the face mask thing. Is like, what would we have done? What we did during the Spanish flu is like everybody had sewing kits and could make a mask out of stuff, but we don't have that anymore. We've lost that.
A lot of people. I feel like sewing disappeared in like a generation. I can do a little bit of sewing, but not nearly to the level that like my grandmother could.
Yeah, but the market will solve that problem immediately, just like it did. Just like China started selling us masks.
Yeah. Speaking of market problems that are being solved, a 3D printed house is for sale in New York. Builders say it will cut housing construction costs. So this house is a $300,000 house, which I guess in New York is not a terrible deal, but no one would buy this house for that here.
Yeah.
But it cut the cost of manufacturing in half, and a lot of that was due to the manufacturing time. So they could build this entire thing in like 10 days. And you got to figure like the 3D printing part of it's less than that, because it's got pretty traditional construction for the roof and everything else.
Look at the close-up of the layers.
Yeah.
I feel like there's going to be a lot of insects and stuff that enjoy nesting in that surface.
Like the snake that lived in your parents' siding.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like they'll probably just put some, like some Tyvek or zip system on that, and then some vinyl siding and call it a day.
Well, they chose not to. It looks like they've got like the hardy board or something at the top part there, but they've just left the layers on the bottom part.
That's probably a cost-saving measure, right?
The first picture, it looks that way in the bottom picture, but the picture at the very top of the article looks like they put siding on everything.
No, you can see the striations.
Yeah, you totally can in
part.
the bottom photo, yeah.
That's just a zoomed out version of what you're looking at below there.
Are you sure? Because it looks like, if you look really close next to the window, it looks like that's like some kind of siding, but maybe not.
That's absolutely not. It's the same
kind of stuff.
Because the siding would be much larger pieces.
Yeah.
Why would you use little tiny pieces of siding like that?
Yeah, that's true. I would worry about the insect part of it then.
300,000 for that.
But
it's 1,900 square feet and it's in New York, but
yeah, it's upstate New York, which I bet the average house cost in whatever neighborhood that is at least 400,000.
It's crazy.
But this thing also prints. I don't know if it prints it, but it incorporates the electrical and the plumbing as it's doing it, which is cool.
Nice.
Probably gets annoying when a pipe freezes and bursts, and then you have to reprint your house.
The wall. Yeah. As someone who has had that happen and then had to dig out the concrete in a basement, it's never the same, and it's a huge pain in the butt, and it is an endless amount of misery from the time that it happened until the time that you move. So it's not fun. It's not fun to ever dig up the basement slab. And then if there's ever like even a little bit of water under your house, it's going to come right through that. Really frustrating. You know what's not really frustrating? Nvidia, their researchers are training AI to reward dogs for responding to commands. So they got a little apparatus here that has a camera on it, and it's able to recognize when the dog correctly responds to a series of commands. So they're able to use AI to train the dog, and it's like if you sit correctly, then it will reward you with food. There's a little mechanical tube of rewards here, and it's servo, and it'll lift the thing up so that it can have some rewards.
I'm looking at this and I'm imagining Rue just tearing into it. Like, she would do her commands at first, and then when she realized the treats are in that little compartment, she'd be like, time to tear that up.
My brain went somewhere else with this. It was a vision of Jeff Bezos with one of these, and it was like, congratulations, warehouse worker. You've successfully picked 300 items per hour. Here's your methamphetamine tablet.
And, you don't even get handed it. You just have to put your mouth under the machine and it drops it in.
Jeff Bezos is like, I'll order 1 million. He definitely would do that. Okay. I guess switching gears to nonsense. Wall Street Fund wants to hire WallStreetBets users to help pick meme stocks.
Wait.
Whoa.
What?
You skipped one.
Oh, I skipped one. Sorry. Design. Android 12 leak appears to show major redesign with color-changing UI. I don't know what to think about this. It looks bad.
I actually don't hate it. I think this will be on trend for 2021. Warm colors are kind of coming back in. And I also don't like super bright white, personally, when I'm looking at my phone because it blinds me. But I could see why some people might not like this.
It just looks dirty.
I also like... I do like the change as well on like the icons when you slide them down. They're larger and there's less per row, so they're easier to hit, which will be nice. But yeah, the colors, I think that UI will change based on your wallpaper background as well. So it may be because this person has picked like a sad photo of the desert that it is this weird, dingy sort of gray. But I kind of don't mind the dingy gray, personally.
Nah.
I mean, you can change it, looks like. Well, so we'll see. But I think it looks overall cleaner, easier to hit the buttons.
It's probably also important to emphasize this was a leak, and we don't know if this is going to be the final Android 12 design or not. Not that any of us have phones that'll be eligible for the upgrade anyway.
Yeah.
So you've been in quarantine for a year, and you haven't upgraded your phone, so everybody's due for an upgrade.
And suddenly no one's going to be able to get one.
Exciting times. All right. Now, here's the story that I accidentally previewed. Gizmodo says that Wall Street Fund wants to hire WallStreetBets users to help pick meme stocks. They have the LinkedIn posting. There's a link to the LinkedIn posting here somewhere, isn't there? There was an actual LinkedIn posting that was like $200K a year plus bonuses.
We looked at it earlier this week.
30% of your profit and loss. I think you can lose money on that. And $200K a year plus full medical and stuff like that. And after the pandemic is over, you get to go to their big parties in like St. Petersburg and Brazil.
Eyes wide shut parties. Great. Yeah, that's amazing.
But you have to have a year on WallStreetBets, at least 1,000 karma, and you have to be able to prove that you're active on there.
Truly the darkest timeline. Can you imagine if like level 1 forum membership was a job requirement somewhere?
Here's what I wonder about that, and I bet they didn't mention this, but I bet they will require it. Do you think they make you give them your password?
Oh, that would be dark. Wow, would you imagine if your employment came down to that? It's like, ugh. Would you give them the password and then immediately change it?
I think they would probably check it periodically, right? They probably just like to see what you're up to.
Yeah.
That's horrifying. Would they try to keep your account after you quit?
Maybe. They might like try to do a read-only type of thing where they hope you don't notice they're still watching.
That's a dark timeline. Gizmodo's also got our next story, which is Gina Carano is no longer a part of Star Wars, and this is newsworthy. I don't really see why this is newsworthy.
I don't really either. But
who cares?
Some people were upset about it. Some people were like, meh.
Oh, the reason this is newsworthy is because what's his name? The main character did the exact same thing a few months ago. He was not banned.
Really?
I saw several of her posts though, and I was like, that's kind of amazing that it didn't happen sooner.
His was actually, so he put up one of those memes about the kids in cages. And it was one of those situations where his picture of the kids in cages was in South America somewhere. It wasn't even the US. And his was complete misinformation. Hers was an opinion, but his was pro-left and hers was pro-right. So he gets celebrated. She gets banned.
She also compared herself to Jews in the Holocaust.
No, he did the same thing. His was also a Holocaust comparison.
Wow. That's really horrifying. They both should have been fired.
Neither of them should have been fired.
I'm just trying to make everybody mad.
I mean, people will be angry no matter what.
I thought she was one of the better characters on that show.
I don't care about Disney Plus. There, I said it.
That show's actually not bad. Don't pay for it. Check it out.
I haven't ever watched it, so I can't really form an opinion. And I also haven't. I read some of the stuff that she said for the thing, and I thought it was kind of dumb and distasteful. But actors gonna.
Yeah, well, look, neither of them are winning any points here. But if you follow the whole Star Wars drama, and I do, and I don't know why, but I'm interested in it. I love the fact that they're woking themselves into death. Like they're destroying the company with wokeness, especially the Star Wars part. But apparently the guy, I think his name's Pedro, he's been a huge problem on the set. Everybody hates him. And he wants more of taking the helmet off, but they're like, no, your character doesn't take the helmet off. Can we not make that any more clear? Did you read the script? But he was like a huge problem. And she wasn't. And yet they decided to keep him and get rid of her.
Didn't he?
And she also had a standalone. They were going to do a whole series just about her.
Wow. Oops. I didn't mean to wreck my own career.
You really should stay away from Twitter if you're lucky enough to have a job in Hollywood and you're making a bunch of money.
Yeah.
Don't tweet. Or just tweet what they pay you to tweet.
Tweet weird memes. Actually, maybe you don't even tweet that because who knows how they'd be construed.
You can't. Everything can offend somebody.
I sent you a meme today, Ryan. Did you see it? I made a meme of your cat.
I saw it because it was on Twitter.
Where did you send it to?
It's on Twitter.
Yeah, I replied to you on Twitter.
Oh, I don't ever look at my tweets after I send them out. I just send them into the void.
They're just gone.
Yeah.
You're gonna find later that one of them, came back with a mind of its own and has its own virtual ether plot. It's just taking on a life of its own. Kind of like our next meme about cats. A viral "I'm not a cat" filter is decades old software. If you haven't seen this, footage of a Texan lawyer denying that he was a cat appeared with a feline filter on a live call captured by the public. Yeah, so.
I love how alarmed the cat looks when he realizes he's a cat. That's such a great video.
The best part is him telling, he says it, Your Honor, I'm not a cat. Like he's afraid that the judge is going to think he is actually a cat representing someone.
And that kitten is like freaking out the entire time. It just makes it funnier.
But these two guys, they have like no sense of humor. They don't crack a smile or anything. They're just like the whole time.
That is kind of funny. It was apparently software that was bundled on Dell laptops for a while. So I guess his kids turned that on somehow and just left it on.
Yeah, he was looking for the Zoom controls, but it wasn't Zoom doing it.
Oops. It's kind of funny. You know what's not kind of funny? Almost dying after you eat magnets. Boy almost died after swallowing 54 magnets to see if he could become magnetic. Now, if you swallow one magnet, it's fine. If you swallow more than one magnet, it's not fine because they get stuck together through your internal organs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if he would have swallowed them at the same time, that's probably a low chance or a lower chance. But no, he swallowed one set of magnets and then followed it up 2 days later, which almost guarantees a collision in the intestines.
Yeah.
Look at his face here. Mission accomplished.
It was a 6-hour surgery, and then he spent 10 days in the hospital after surgery. So
and his
he
mom
almost
was like,
died.
"Oh, he's so uncomfortable after the surgery. He should be dead. He's so lucky to be uncomfortable. What a moron."
Yeah. I don't think he'll ever eat magnets again.
But he will breed. Guarantee you that. Probably a lot.
Yeah, 12 seems like an old enough age to realize maybe I shouldn't do this.
12 is an old enough age that when you go to the ER and they're like, "Well, you swallowed magnets, just go home and die." You're old enough to make that decision.
If only he'd tested positive for hepatitis C.
And I was going to say maybe the algorithm, the dystopian triage algorithm would look at that and be like, no.
Well, that's another thing. Did he take up a bed that was a pandemic bed?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Let him die.
Trust me, the healthcare workers probably feel the same way at this point. North Carolina firefighters were dispatched to a restaurant to discover it's not on fire, it's just making 10,000 wings. Ronnie's Pizza was simply preparing for a massive order of fiery hot buffalo wings ahead of the Super Bowl. I guess somebody was having a Super Bowl party when maybe they shouldn't have been. But they've got a picture here. The restaurant was emitting a lot of smoke, and that kind of makes sense if they're making 10,000 wings. That's a lot of chicken wings.
I don't know if I would call the fire department over that level of smoke, but
well, they did
at a restaurant.
It was just passers-by,
right? But even as a passerby, I'd be like, oh, they're probably cooking something in the kitchen. Like, if everyone was not panicking and running out of the building.
Yeah. Well, some people seem to really enjoy calling the authorities.
I bet the next woman really enjoyed calling the authorities because I
think that'd be an embarrassing call.
Woman is out over $100,000 believing she was in a romance with Bruno Mars. So, Valentine's Day, it's approaching in this article, but it has passed at the time that you're watching this. A Houston man appeared in court overnight accused of posing as recording artist Bruno Mars. I have his name. I was trying to, here we go. Involving a 63-year-old North Texas woman who told police she created an Instagram profile in search of companionship.
I think the flashing red light is why would Bruno Mars, international superstar, need your $10,000?
Right.
Well, it was a check to a friend of the band for tour expenses, Ryan.
Yeah, right. Why would he need that?
Well, because the band is touring and things are weird, and
Surely he has a CPA though who handles all that,
The
right?
record company pays for all of that out of the profits for the record. Nobody pays for their own tour.
So they got 10 grand, and then they were like, "Hey, we need another 90," and she was like, "Okay."
Oh, that
Do you
sucks.
think? Here's the question that 30 Action News doesn't answer. Was she already a big fan of Bruno Mars, or did she discover Bruno Mars after the relationship? Because she's 63.
I mean, has anybody introduced her to OnlyFans? I mean, if she's that thirsty, she'd probably get a lot more mileage with something else.
Are there a lot of guys servicing older ladies on OnlyFans?
There absolutely are.
Wow.
Wendell, you said that a little too quickly.
Listen, I was researching this story, and it took a turn, and it was very
dark turn.
yeah, it was very very dark, very fast.
Do you think there's a situation where you schedule, like some one-on-one live stream time, and you're getting ready to take your pants off, and she's still just showing you grandkid pictures and like her baking stuff she's done? It's like, what? Can we get to the sex acts?
I forget if this is one of the stories in Nonsense or not, but that story, that dark rabbit hole that I went down in looking for more information on this story, led to reading about Britney Spears and her fight with her dad for the conservatorship and the recent ruling and stuff. And it turns out that the guy that does the "Leave Britney Alone" meme is on OnlyFans.
Oh.
And I'm given to understand that it's the aforementioned thirsty situation for older ladies. I don't know. I stopped digging because I did not want to know.
I've been down the Britney hole as well, and that is a bizarre situation. I didn't know about the OnlyFans part, but
I knew that there were guys on OnlyFans, but I assumed that they were only for other gay men.
I don't think that's necessarily true based on, I didn't dig into it, but it was like, oh, that makes sense.
I would say, engagement challenge, but what are the odds we have 63-year-old women in our audience?
We have a few older, retirees, people, trying to keep their minds sharp and keep up with things, I guess. Welcome. Engagement challenge, say hello. Join the forum, maybe? No, I'm not going to do it. Well, it's nice to have you anyway. I guess our next story: pigs can be trained to use computer joysticks, say researchers. So these were younger pigs that they kept in the study here. They learned to use the joystick, and then they got too big to be part of the research program anymore. So,
So then they were shipped off to make bacon.
I think that was because they were just growing pigs, but I like that they didn't really explain that, and you could kind of think for a moment they were just so good at the game, they were getting so many treats, they fattened themselves out of the machine.
They fattened themselves into a nice set of bacon.
They had great names too, Hamlet and Omelet.
Oh.
But the Ebony and Ivory were the second ones, and I think based on their training, some of this seems like the pigs may not have known what they were doing after all.
Yeah.
Because I think Ivory was really bad at it.
They just didn't understand.
Maybe Ivory's the Roo of the pig world.
Yeah. There are some dogs where it's just like, wow, this is an impressive level of intelligence and recall for a dog. And then there's Roo.
And then there's Roo, yeah. Roo can do some basic commands and stuff, but I mean, compared to like my last dog, she's not quite there. I love her though.
This Belgian brand has pulled the simp sweater after social media backlash. So, yeah.
I love the picture of the kid that they got to model it.
I don't think that kid was probably even wearing it. He was probably just wearing a shirt, and then they were like, yep, they're just going to put a logo on here, just whatever. Like, it's probably the same shot with different text. Like, that's just shot in.
Yeah. You see that on Amazon listings a lot for clothing, where it's very clearly like they just photoshopped every color.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is not an accurate representation.
Has anybody done a parody of 50 Cent's song PIMP and made it SIMP? That seems like it would write itself.
And you should be writing that right now. For your rap career that you told a client about.
Fox 5 reports that two brothers have been arrested for planning and filming a fake stabbing prank for social media. So yeah, don't do that. Pro tip.
I like that. Now this is very risky, and I know this is a touchy topic, but I don't think it's out of place to say that in the last year, we've seen a lot of situations where if you are the race that these gentlemen are, you would not want a cop to think that you just murdered somebody for any amount of time. Could be insanely dangerous for you. And yet, once the cop got there, they kept this going for like 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like that would end very badly. They're going to get arrested anyway.
Well, they deserve to get arrested. But the thing is, they didn't call 911. But because they were live streaming it, and I guess some of the people who were watching knew where they were, those people all called 911.
Terrifying. You know what else would be terrifying? If you were working the counter at a convenience store or comic book store, and a man brandishing a sword comes in and starts stealing your Magic the Gathering cards.
That's very on brand.
But the sword didn't come out until he was confronted.
Listen, he studied the blade. He knows you don't actually pull your weapon until you're ready to use it.
What sort of a place do you have to be in mentally for, it's like, I'm cornered, I'm desperate. Oh, no, I need to go get all the Magic the Gathering cards to try to get the ultra rare card?
He didn't get caught. That's amazing.
I'm amazed that Magic the Gathering cards are still as popular as they were. And I have Magic the Gathering cards from when I was a kid, and I still don't think they're worth anything.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, and they're not worth anything. And the ones that were really good are outlawed for tournament play, which makes me sad.
Yeah, so if you're just thinking about buying Magic the Gathering cards and putting them in a closet for 25, 30 years and then coming back to them, don't bother.
Yeah, just take that money and just flush it down a toilet. It's fine. But it was funny. If you'd invested that money in Doge, that would have worked out really well.
Yeah, for like 10 minutes. You really have to time that perfectly, but yeah.
You know what else did not really is people are asking questions about or wondering is like, hey, is this a thing? And it's like, yeah, it turns out a thing. Number 10 defends the taxpayer-funded photos of the Prime Minister's dog playing in the snow. So, again, people click on things that make them outraged, and I think that's what this is. So it turns out that if you work high enough up in the government, there are people that are paid to just go around and document what you're doing. And, if you have a snow day and you're outside playing in the snow with your dog, there's probably a photographer who's on the clock, and it's like, all right, well, we'll just take pictures of you playing with your dog. We have that here in America.
Yeah.
The president has like 2 dogs.
You think it's okay that we're paying for photographers?
No, but
these are servants.
Yeah. So
I mean, they take photos of other stuff too, though. Like,
who cares?
All the photos you see of like them signing bills and
we don't need to see that.
This is not anything new, though, and the article did a bad job of saying like this has always been like this, and we should definitely end this. Not this is something new that we should be outraged about.
And he had 3 photographers. Okay, say you need 1. You don't need 1, but let's say you do. Why you got 3? I gotta say though, this is an amazing picture.
It is a good picture. It's a good dog.
Yeah.
This
I wonder if captured the moment there.
That's not the question, though. The question was never, is the dog good? The dog is always good.
He's got a stick and he's excited.
Running in the snow.
He's in motion. His paws are up in the air. It's a fantastic picture. But I do think that everybody involved should be gassed.
You gotta wonder what the political situation is that the article author is just so incensed by this that it's just like, I must make a big deal about the dogs having a photographer. They
said, I don't know the number 10 jargon and stuff. It was Boris Johnson?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So yeah, the reason they're going after it is because the same with the Trump stuff. This is just his opponents who actually, like their whole Twitter world is about attacking him.
Yeah.
So this is sort of like their lifeblood online. They love this kind of stuff. I happen to agree with them, but they're doing it for the wrong reason.
Yeah, I agree. The reasoning behind it, it's like, I agree with this. This is great. And then it's like, wait a minute. You're getting me outraged for the wrong reason. This is manipulative. This is not an honest way to present the thing.
This is a waste of my fragile emotional health.
The same way that the photographer is the waste of our resources as a country. Well, not our, theirs.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm sure we've got the same. So
We do. We have a White House photographer.
Trump probably had his own people, right? Did he use the official White House people?
I bet he didn't. I bet he was like, no, I need people who can make me look good.
Yeah.
All right, on to our next story. Anaheim Zoo brings penguins inside due to cold. Penguins, whose native habitat is the Arctic usually, they brought them inside. They didn't do a really good job explaining that, in my
The
opinion.
people of the Netherlands are going to be quite incensed that you called that city Anaheim.
Anaheim?
Arnhem.
Arnhem. Oh, yeah, it is Arnhem. I'm sorry.
But these are African penguins, right? That's what
They point out that not all penguins are cold penguins, and that people should know that.
They
I don't
are
know
so cute. Look at that picture. Look at their little bellies.
I got distracted.
Scratched.
I get distracted by the YouTube video halfway down the article. There's really not a lot of article here. It's mostly video.
Penguins are adorable, but then when you see them, the way that they live is so disgusting, and I bet they stink.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you've never been to a penguin exhibit.
I can't remember the smell. I have been to a penguin exhibit, but I don't remember a strong smell.
I guess the whole zoo kind of smells a little bit, so like maybe you just don't notice it as much.
Well, I was at an aquarium. That's where I saw them.
Oh.
You know what the most strong animal smell that I've ever encountered, and it's still occasionally I wake up in a cold sweat at night? A pig farm. The smell from a pig farm is the stuff of nightmares.
You went to the stock sale, right?
Yeah.
It would be a pen of cattle, a pen of pigs, all of their feces from the day, and then they were rendering the fat and making pork skins right next to that. That's a smell.
I don't think I'll ever get that smell out of my brain. It's horrifying.
Or your clothes for a couple of days.
Nope, just burned the clothes. Because I was still smelling it after they were washed. And it was like, you know what? I don't need these clothes. It's fine. Conservationists are pleading with the public to stop milking psychedelic toads. So, it's a pandemic. You're bored. What are you going to do? I know. Milk a toad. Don't do
You gotta get that DMT.
I mean, look at that. He's just like, leave me alone. It is actually really hard on the toads and really hard on their population. So don't do it.
Well, you need to explain how exactly you milk a toad because it doesn't involve nipples.
You go ahead.
You massage their genitalia.
Apparently, this is in Arizona.
Colorado River.
Oh.
Or
There's
Colorado,
so many other great things to do in Colorado.
It's the Colorado River toad. Which,
I don't know, Krista. Have you ever tripped DMT?
No, but if I have to milk a toad's genitals for it, I don't think I want to.
Well, you got to ask yourself, how good is it if people are willing to do that?
Well, there's a conundrum here too, because it's like, oh, there's a synthetic alternative. Maybe we could make a synthetic version in the lab which will protect the toads as thrill seekers turn to the synthetic alternatives. And it's like, wait a minute, what have we done?
Well, DMT, I'm not an expert on DMT by any stretch of the imagination, but that's one of, like many drugs, your body makes what you need. And to go further is just to trip balls. Although I think a lot of people do argue that it's like the whole PTSD type stuff. Like it can treat a lot of terrible mental conditions.
Yeah, there were a few, I think a few hospitals have gotten approval to use psychedelics to treat things like PTSD, or at least do studies for them. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works out over the next few years.
I think most people describe DMT as being something that it's not recreational, but it is beneficial. And you definitely don't want to do it again right after you do it. So there's nothing addictive about it.
And finally, our last story, which is an was this a follow-up? We did a story on this before, I thought, but maybe it was a different sheep.
I don't remember this exact story, but maybe. I mean, this guy has been at this for a while, so they might have reported his first retirement.
He was prolific. Yeah, I don't know. Injuries force Baz the Ram into lounge room retirement after castration.
I love when you look at the placeholder image here for this video, and you're like, okay, that's his leg, and that's his other. Oh,
yeah.
Oh,
yeah. So he's recovering after surgery because he's elderly. He's an elderly sheep, but he's ram, I guess. But he is a prolific breeder. And it was being really hard on his knees. His joints couldn't take it. Like he's literally falling apart. And he's just like, no, I've got nothing else to live for. So they're like, well, I guess we could castrate him.
13 kids in the past year, I think they said.
That's just incredible. So there's
3 years. I'm sorry, that's 3 years.
There's a lot of really amazing things in this article that I am not going to quote.
Well, the veterinarian guy, he said that rams, like, their legs could be broken and it would not stop their libido. Like, they would just keep going until they literally died.
Which is what was happening here.
Yeah.
They also let him stay inside because post-surgery they were worried about like a fly getting into his wound. So they just set him up with Netflix and set him up indoors and just, it's like, here, you just Netflix and chill for a while. It's fine.
There's a picture of that too, and it's just, it looks like a baby gate, but then there's just hay all over the floor.
Yeah. So, I just...
I don't know.
What a fun story.
It's a lot to give up for Netflix and air conditioning. I do love air conditioning, though.
I wonder if he was like, you know what, just let me, like, I would rather just go out in a blaze of glory than...
Well, you know, the next time he walks out there and sees all the ladies, his knees still hurt.
Yeah. But maybe he won't injure himself further from here. I don't know.
You know what? They should have gotten him some sort of like one of those bionic suits that the Japanese use to lift stuff.
Just so he can continue mating.
So
a horrifying bionic suit ram. Yeah.
Yeah, like he could move himself in such a way to, achieve the mount and then lock the suit down, lock his knees in place.
Oh, to reference Cyberpunk, the Atom Smasher of rams. He's more robot than ram anymore.
The only thing left is his testicles and his legs.
Oh. On that note,
I think that's going to wrap it up for this week of the Level 1 news. Thank you for hanging out with us.
yeah, hopefully we're not snowed in by the time this airs, though maybe it'll thaw out by then.
Oh, I'd be happy to get some snow.
Yeah, instead of ice, that would be nice.
It's the ice that I don't care for.
All right.
Hopefully we have power this time next week.
We will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.